Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Ferrer, your professor in Research in Social Studies. Our topic is on research sampling. My question is, what is sampling? This is measuring a small portion of something and then making a general statement about the whole thing. Sampling is a process used in statistical analysis in which a predetermined number of observations are taken from a larger population. Now, my next question is, why we need sampling? First, sampling makes possible the study of a large heterogeneous population. When we say heterogeneous population, this is where every member has a different value for the characteristic that you are interested in. Another is sampling is for economy. When we do research, we really have to spend a lot of our resources, especially money resource. And by the use of sampling, we can economize not only our money but also our time as well as our efforts in other resources which are being used in doing research. Sampling is also for speed. By using sampling, then we can do our research works faster compared to when we use population in doing our research, particularly from where we gather our needed data. Sampling is also for accuracy. By the use of sampling, we can be sure that the data that we have is more than accurate when done we use population. And of course, sampling saves the sources of data from being all consumed. It's because when we use population, we have to consume as much as possible all the sources of our data. But if we use sampling, by doing so, it will save our sources of data from being consumed at once. Now we're going to introduce to you some terms that we usually use in research, particularly in this part of your paper and computing for your sample. The first term that we're going to define is element. This is a unit about which information is collected and which provides the basis of your analysis. So, this element is actually the basic unit that represents what is being sampled and from which survey data are to be gathered. Another is population. This is a specific aggregation of all the elements, and this is usually called as the universe. Population is a well-defined collection of individuals or objects known to have similar characteristics. So, as you write your Chapter 3, the methodology part of your paper, you're going to include these terms as I was mentioning to you. The next is study population. It is the aggregation of elements from which the sample is actually selected. So the study population will be the source of your sample in your research. Then next we have this sample. These are elements or people who are actually selected by the researcher to participate or to be the subject in this study. So samples should be representative of the population to ensure that you can generalize the findings from the research sample to the population as a whole. Then we have sampling frame. This is a set of exclusive attributes such as age, sex, employment status, and similar attributes that you may use in your study. So this sampling frame are source of material or device from which a sample is drawn. This can be a list of all those within a population who can be sampled and may include individuals, households, or institutions. So it depends upon what population that you're going to get your sample. It might be individuals or households or institutions. Another is the sampling error. This is the degree of error of a sample statistics when compared with the population parameter. Or this is the error caused by observing a sample instead of the whole populations. So the difference between a sample statistics used to estimate a population parameter and the actual but unknown value of the parameter. Then another is variable. These are set of exclusive attributes such as age, sex, employment status, and the like. Or these are any type of data, whether quantitative or qualitative, and as part of experiment, such as your independent variable and your dependent variable. Now we have a representative sampling. This means a sample will be representative of the population from which it is selected if all of the population have an equal chance of being selected in the sample. And another is the confidential level. This is the degree of confidence that the sample statistic will accurately fall within a certain or specified interval from the population parameter, or the percentage of all possible samples that can be expected to include in the true population parameter. Example, in a 95% confidence level is a range of values that you can be 95% certain contains the true mean of the population. Now we have the types of sampling. There are two types of sampling that includes probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. In a probability sampling, the sample is a proportion of the population, and such sample is selected from the population by means of some systematic way in which every element of the population has a chance of being included in the sample. Probability sampling is a sampling technique in which the researcher chooses samples from a larger population using a method based on the theory of probability. So for a participant to be considered as a probability sample, he or she must be selected using a random selection. While in a non-probability sampling, sample is not a proportion of the population and there is no system in selecting the sample. This non-probability sampling is a method in which not all members of the population have an equal chance of participating in the study. Now let's discuss the types of probability sampling. One is the pure random sampling. It is also called unrestricted random sampling, where everyone in the population of inquiry has an equal chance of being selected to be included in the sample. So in a pure random sampling, as I said earlier, each member has an equal probability of being chosen. So researchers can create a random sample using methods like lotteries or random draws. The second is systematic sampling. It is also called restricted sampling. This is a technique in sampling in which every nth name in a list may be selected to be included in the sample. This type of probability sampling involves the selection of elements from an ordered sampling frame. This is called equiprobability method, in which progression through the list is treated circularly with a return to the top once the end of the list is passed. Then the third one is the stratified random sampling. This is a process of selecting randomly samples from different strata of the population used in the study. This is a method of sampling from a population which can be partitioned into subpopulation. Next, we have purposive sampling. This is determining the target population. The respondents are chosen on the basis of their knowledge of the information desired. This purposive sampling is also known as judgmental, selective, or subjective sampling, which the researchers rely on their own judgment when choosing members of population to participate in their study. And the last one is the cluster sampling. This is used when the population is so big or the geographical area is so large. And this is also used when with mutually homogeneous yet internally heterogeneous groupings are evident in a statistical population. You want to have a cluster sampling of teachers in South District of Rojas in the North District. That is, if your research is more with teachers as your respondents. Then for the non-probability sampling, we have three, such as accidental sampling, quota sampling, and convenience sampling. So what about this accidental sampling? By the word itself, it's by accident. So in this kind of non-probability sampling, there is no system of selection of the sample, but only those whom the researcher met by chance are included in the sample. This is also known as grab or opportunity sampling. It involves the sample being drawn from part of the population which is close to hand. A sample population is selected because they are readily available and it is convenient on the part of the researcher. Then we have the quota sampling. This is where specified numbers of persons of certain types are included in the sample, such as 10 doctors, 5 lawyers, 5 teachers, and the like. So using quota sampling, the researcher divide the survey population into mutually exclusive subgroups And these subgroups are selected with respect to their certain known features or traits or interests or the like, such as doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, etc. And finally, we have convenience sampling. This is the process of picking out people in the most convenient and fastest way to immediately get the reaction to a certain hot or controversial issue. So, in this case, the sample is taken from a group of people easy to contact or easy to reach. Now, let's try to solve the sample size of a given population using the formula of Pagoso and that of Slovin. So, as you can see on the slide, the formula is small n, or that is sample size, is equals to capital N, or that's your population, divided by 1 as constant, plus population times level of significance squared. By using the formula, given the population of 5 barangays in Poblacion Rojas, you have Barangay 1, 2, 3, 4, and Barangay Ratak with the given population of 15,078. And out of that, you can derive a sample size of 393 using the formula of Pagoso and that of Slovin. And 393 is only 2.6% of the entire population of Poblacion. So, using the sample percentage, you can derive those sample from the different barangays, such as 96 from 1, 28 from 2, Barangay 2, 73 from Barangay 3, 136 from Barangay 4, and 60 from Barangay Ratak. And just compute for the percentage of this sample in your population. So that would be all, class, for this morning regarding our topic on research sample. If you have questions, you can post that in the Google Classroom or in the group chat. Just check on your work text and working for that part in your research. Again, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.